Guys, welcome back. Sound Design Hangout. Today we're going to cover what I think is probably one of the most interesting things.
Guys, what is going on? You now have the opportunity to support your favorite show, this Sound Design Hangout, the SDHO. We are minting a new NFT each SDHO. This is a perfect opportunity to support me. And you can own the artwork for SDHO 26. And with that, you get unlockable content, which is the original image file for this piece of art that I've created, along with the live set that I used to make SDHO 26. Please consider supporting. The link to this will be in the bio.
So that topic is basically physical modeling, but not physical modeling synthesis, although I guess that's what it is, but specifically the subset of resonators. So we've covered resonators on here before, and they're sort of like spread out across Ableton and many different devices. And some devices that you probably know and use and love, like the electric device, the electric piano, that's a resonator. I mean, it's not all a resonator, just like a piano is essentially a percussion instrument. You're like, wait, what? But it is, when you really look at what these definitions are. And so these resonators is what I want to talk about, and the way you get these sounds, although I know there's a way you can get them with math where you take like delay, like very small, very short delay times with very high feedback, and it gives a resonator sound. But I'm talking about more of like the physical modeling of resonators, because this physical modeling is what it's trying to do is not just do a bunch of delays really quickly, but it's supposed to say, okay, so there's this resonating device which is made out of materials. It has different sizes to it. You, rather than tweaking filters and volume knobs up and down, you're actually tweaking parameters like material, hardness, softness, you know what I mean? And so these metaphoric materials that are really existing in these math machine synthesizers that are outputting these mathematic calculations, they are basically saying like you're throwing some sort of audio or some sort of like snippet of like a white noise sound into this resonator that, as the sound goes through, it like resonates. And maybe it resonates fast, maybe it resonates slow, maybe the material makes it move a different way, and it's like this like echo chamber of resonance, and it gives a very real world sound. It gives a very 3D sound. Think about like reverb. It's kind of like reverb, and that's why if you go to audio effects, I've got them all listed out here. So if you actually do group and folder, which maybe yours looks like this, if you don't want it, you just uncheck group and folder. This Ableton was like, okay, so we've got like way too many of these now. Let's not try to freak everyone out. Because can you imagine you've like never used Ableton and then you just open it up and you're like, okay, well, it would take me like 5 years just to know all these audio effects, which is not true. Okay, so group and rec. So you've got this reverb and resonance. Now, so we're talking about the resonance. Now, why is reverb grouped with it? When you're using reverb, which is why you want to use it on a lot of things, especially dry sounds, meaning like sounds that weren't like recorded in a 3D acoustic space. So like right now you're hearing reverb on my voice. It sounds like you're in a room with me. Maybe you can imagine listening to my voice, like what sort of room I'm in, but I also have like a reverb that's on it as well. It allows you to basically map the impression that whatever source of audio is now in like a 3D space. Because I don't know if you ever noticed this about Ableton, but like when you were maybe beginning and you were like clicking through samples, a lot of like drum samples sounded very flat, like, and you're just like, like, why does that sound so bad? And it's because chances are that drum sample was generated from a synthesizer. And a synthesizer, you're hitting a key, it's playing a waveform, and that output is going right into your audio interface or right into Ableton. So it's not passing through air. It's not like, and so it sounds really dry, and we're not used to hearing that. Anywhere you are right now, unless you have headphones on, like you're hearing noises in your house. You're hearing noises when you're outside, and there's always like a reverberation on it. So when there's no reverb, it makes it just sound flat and awful. And that's why like we really have to get good with our sound design if we're mostly just designing sounds and synthesizers, because we want to make sure they sound like real. You can there's a lot of music where like, they want it to sound like very cold and dry and, and like if you can do it that way, but I like my stuff to sound like warm and real, you know what I mean? And so then we have resonators, which is kind of like a reverb, but like not really, I'm not saying they're the same thing because they're not. But you can understand why, because when you hear these resonator sounds, and we'll just go ahead and drop Corpus, because this is a wonderful one. These resonators, they have like very real world sounds to them, even though what we're really just hearing is physical modeling, mathematic wizardry with these devices, you know what I mean? Like they're trying to say, okay, so we've got these different, and by the way, these are the same resonators that you'll find in in Collision, which is the instrument here. We'll get into that later. I'll just drag it onto here and it'll create a MIDI track. Right now we're just in an audio track. And you'll see it's the same thing with these beams, marimbas. So like this Corpus is a audio effect, and you can put an audio effect on either an audio track or on a MIDI track, and you're really only going to have 2 tracks, although you do have a return track, but that's different. So if we're over here and we've got this, I'll just title this Corpus. We basically have a resonator, and it says start with one of these. It's going to be doing, so for instance, if we go to pipe, it's 3D modeling. It's 3D acoustically modeling a pipe, which is going to have, it's saying adjust the decay time. How long is it going to ring? What's this radius of this pipe? A pipe with a smaller radius opposed to a pipe with a bigger radius. If you have a pipe with a small radius and it's going to decay for a shorter time than a longer time, that'll probably sound very different. What's the opening going to be? What tune will it be? Will it follow along? That's what this sidechain is. We're going to want to enact that. And then what sort of other things? Like other ones like marimba has like a material percentage, this inharmonic ones, this hit percentage, and then like where you would strike it. So it's really cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just delete this. I want another MIDI track. I'm going to get to Collision later, but I want to kind of mess around with Corpus because I want to be in control of what I feed into the Corpus device. I'm going to bring the Corpus all the way here. And the EQ8, these were, I have these on like all my tracks by default because I know I'm going to use an EQ eventually, you know what I mean? Especially if like this is something that I release, I'm definitely going to be doing some EQs, but right now it's not really doing anything except for like rolling off some of these highs here, or some of these lows. So like if on accidents you hit some key and you get this big massive wall of like sub frequencies, you don't really need that. A little bit of compression always, and then a limiter. So like you don't need these. I would probably put a limiter on every track. And a little bit of compression is always good, but you don't need it. So it says drop instrument here. So this is like an effect. And what I want to do is I want to have white noise. I like to run white noise through resonators because white noise is very harmonic. In fact, it's all of the harmonics, it's all the frequencies. And when you put that into a resonator, it's almost like you maximize the colors and tones and dynamicisms harmonics that you would get from these resonator devices. But we will also mix it up and do a sine wave. So I want a sine wave and I want white noise. So I'm going to choose operator. Could have also chose analog, but I would just rather work in operator. You know, if I was only doing white noise, or if I was trying to do a lot of like different filter routings, or if I was trying to go for more of like a retro analog-y feel, and I really wanted, of course, what analog does, Ableton's device up here, of course, I would have gone for analog, but because I want to do some things, I think operator will be easier. Operator's more FM synthesis, but it allows you to do subtractive and some other interesting things as well. So what I want to do is I'm going to come over to this routing algorithm, and I'm going to drop it on this one. It's become one of my new favorite ones, this one over here, which says you hear whatever's in oscillator A, you hear whatever in oscillator B, and you also hear whatever is in oscillator C. See these colors right here? And then if you want, you can use D to modulate C if you wanted to, modulating in an FM way. That's just what operator does. If you want more information on operator, I've got a lot of different videos on operator on the channel. So if it sounds like I'm going kind of quick, I'm not expecting you to know all of this, but I don't want to spend too much time on operator because today's more about resonators. It's more of a fun resonator hangout because I haven't covered this in a while and I think it's really cool. So if we come into operator, I'm going to turn these off, okay? Just saves computer resources. If you don't have a level parameter, you can just leave them off, and it's easier to teach. So right now we've got A turned on, we have the level all the way up, and we're going to hear whatever waveform is over here under wave. So I'm going to go to white noise. I'm going to turn this frequency down because white noise gives you every frequency, so even the highest frequencies, 18,000 hertz or more, don't need that. And for the time being, I'm going to go into envelope, and I want it to be short. So if I have this sustain all the way open, I'm going to be able to, and we have to arm this, and I'm just going to, we have to arm it to here. If I click a note, every note's going to sound the same because white noise, it's not pitched. It's just the same thing every time, all of this stuff. And then you sculpt it with filters. Here's what we got. We're hearing the corpus, but let's turn off the corpus for a second. This is the white noise by itself. Now, because this is the volume envelope, so this is saying, what does volume do all the time? It says start all the way up, maximum volume, and remain maximum volume. This is the sustain while you hold the sound down. And then when you release, you got this release here, which is 400 milliseconds. I always like to drag it out, force a habit. So if I hold it and I hit the note, remember this sound? Now, if I just tap it, now, if I take the sustain and I wanted to make it really short, I can say no sustain, and then this decay determines just how long it'll be from peak volume to no volume. So this 6.78 very predictably will be very short. You can barely hear it, but watch when we bring it out. I'm going to lower some of this release because I want it to be a shorter sound, and I want to craft it in here, and then I want to open it up and see how we can get different sounds. Turn on corpus. Now it's the same sound every time, which I don't want. So let's go into here and let's go input from operator. And we have to click this frequency, otherwise it won't do anything. Now, if we come back into here, and that sounds so lovely. Okay, now if we come back in here and we take this sustain all the way up, we're going to be able to not just hit it like that, but we're going to be able to hit and hold down. Oh, I'll just leave it up because, and if you add the attack, that means that'll say, okay, over 33 milliseconds, I want this sound, when I hit it, to go from no volume to full volume over 33 milliseconds. So it'll give a different volume contour to our sound. So without, full volume right away. Let's give it an attack. See? And I always like to come over here to sustain. I like to keep sustain up because I always want to know what I learned starting out on this sound design journey was I wanted to like hit a note or multiple notes, which is a chord, and I wanted it to play and just like forever, right? And I could never figure, well, not I could, it wasn't that I wasn't ever able to figure it out, but I wanted to know, and it was like sustain. Okay, so you keep the sustain all the way up. Okay, and what we want to do here is we want to, where are we at here? Lower the sustain a little bit so it doesn't just rise up to full volume and stay, but it goes up to full volume and then it sort of retreats a little bit. It gives it more of an organic sense to the contour. So with it all the way up, so it fades in from low to full and it stays full volume. Stays full for as long as I hold it down and then I release. But now let's drop the sustain. Now you don't have to do this. I do it because, so just a little bit, maybe, and then over a longer period, it's going to hit and see if it sounds better. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Let's move to the attack again. Because I want to be able to like see what it sounds like. But if I hold it down, that gives me an idea. Operator. Check it. Let's go 16ths. 24ths. Then we got this sound. Look at this, it's bugging out. Let's play with these material settings, or the decay. Keep in mind you can also, I like the way this sounds. Now keep in mind when you look at this corpus right here, we're getting dry and wet, 50. That means 50% of what we're hearing is no corpus, it's this. Sounds pretty good if you ask me. But we're also getting 50% corpus. But now listen to what happens if we get 100% corpus. So if you literally just wanted to play corpus, you know, you could just throw up the wet to be 100%. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you're using this operator just to get noise out of it, but you're still getting the pitch because you're playing notes and this thing is paying attention to whatever pitch you're playing. And if you're like, and so one thing, if you're not getting good sounds out the gate, just play down an octave. Although I don't know if we'll be able to do that because we're doing white noise. So I don't think it will. Well, actually here, you know, take this transpose and let's go down to -12. Let's go down more. So that's something I learned when doing corpus is like, if you go to beam and you're like, all right, the first one is beam. Let's finally do this. I finally rolled out of bed. I finally got the cobwebs out of my head. And now I'm finally going to sit down and use Ableton. I'm not going to watch any more tutorials, but I'm going to finally use Ableton. Okay, I'm finally going to open up Corpus. I finally got the balls to open up that beast. Now let's play some notes. Actually, that sounds really good. I was pretending like, you know, you were going to open up and be like, what is that? You know, like, I don't like that. No, it's just a joke. But meaning like, if you find that it's not making good sounds, just play with the transpose, which is like the pitch. Like that's cool. Like I want to know what that sounds like with the longer decay. Now be careful when you crank up the decay because sometimes there can be so much volume gets added that you immediately go into the red. So you peak, you clip, and that's why we have this limiter here. It's to save your speakers. I know someone's going to be like, technically Ableton has provisions built in that will not allow the clip to actually clip, even though it seems like it is indeed clipping. It's like, yeah, that's true. But when like it goes like 30 dB over clipping, because it's like some crazy device like this, then yeah, that's not good. Well, technically 30 dB against clipping. It's like, man, I don't care about the math stuff. Contribute in another way. I don't know. That's just a routine. Okay, so this is cool. Now let's see if I play with this right. It's really not doing anything. I bet it'll be different if I changed up. So let's play the material. So it's really all about sound design. Like, what do you want it to sound like? Like, if I put this material up, I'm clearly getting like a more of like a muted, more of like a tapered like envelope to it. I don't want that. I like my stuff to ring, so I want like down here. And then for decay, I want to see what it sounds like shorter and then adjust it up until it becomes so lengthy that it actually just gets muddy and blah. Then I don't want it anymore. See how it's doing that thing? Let's take down the dry well a bit. Let's go to this high. I should probably just keep it on high. It's going to use more computer resources, but I got a pretty good computer, and it's probably going to it might sound better. It might not actually. Let's go eco. There's really no difference. I'm not really liking this sound that much, to be perfectly honest with you. Let's go to marimba. Now, marimba and beam are very similar. So let's play beam, then go to marimba, and let's just plan to stick with whatever one we think sounds better, and then we can try some of these other ones. Pipe and tube are very similar. String kind of has like a faux guitar kind of a sound. Membrane is where you want to go if you want it to really sound like a drum. Think like a congo or a conga and a bongo, where you've got that membrane. It can give a very membraney sound. And plate, I almost think of it as like a metal plate sound. So yeah, let's play beam and then go to its sister sound, marimba, and let's keep whatever one just sounds better. I'm gonna play with this transpose. Play with the material. Let's play with the dry wet. I'm gonna come over here and roll off some of these highs, just in case there's any crazy nasally. I'm not like, to be honest with you, the more I play around with these resonators in here, I find I can get great sounds with pipe and tube and good stuff with plate and membrane. Not so lucky with these three, but I always just do it because, like, what do I know? Maybe these sound amazing when I throw a sine wave on this operator in a second. So anyways, let's take a quick little time out because maybe this is more supposed to be about Corpus versus resonators. If we go to instruments, analog, that's a analog synthesizer that does subtractive synthesis, not resonator. Collision, resonators, see all these guys? But it's just more complex. And instead of us putting in that white noise to trigger the corpus, this one says, I'm going to start you with a mallet, but I'm also going to allow you to have a noise as well. And this mallet and the noise, whether you want both, you have to have one, so you could just do the noise, or you could just do the mallet, or you could do both. It will, what that gives in the form of like a striking, you know, because that's what collision, that's what these things are. They're supposed to like mimic mallet percussion, which involves the striking of an object that resonates. And so, what we can do is we can experiment with these different, so the stiffness of the mallet. So collision is a resonator device. It's going to give you that resonator sound. And, it's supposed to mimic like This is a physical modeling synthesizer for, mallet percussion, but not just like marimbas and glockenspiels, but like things that, for all intents and purposes, don't exist. Electric is the same thing. Because when you hit the keys, little hammers go up and then they drop on resonating bars. And then those resonating bars, they're resonating energetic structures that pulse out. Energy pulses get picked up by electrical coils because it's an electric piano, and you get very unique sounds. Wonderful. And then you've got tension, which is mimicking a stringed instrument. And just like we were striking it with something, well, now we have an excitator. So what's a plectrum? It's a pick. So it says, what are you plucking this resonator object with? Hammer. Well, you're not going out and hitting it with your strings with an actual hammer, but the device in a piano or electric piano that lifts up and hits is called a hammer. The hammer bouncing is a way to get a bunch of like little bouncing hammers to kind of like bring it out, almost kind of like an arpeggiator. And you got bow. What might you do with the stringed instrument rather than pluck it? You might bow it like a violin. So that's another resonating device. Then there's a lot of things like these. These are like Max for Live devices that got added. You've got wavetable synthesizer. That's a wavetable synthesizer, so that's not going to be a resonator, but you can throw wavetable down and then run it through Corpus. And now you've got wavetable. You've got the added benefit of resonators, because in the beginning, I wanted to learn the main devices: analog, operator, wavetable, and I wanted to be able to hear any sound, whether it was a guitar, whether it was something that you'd have no business synthesizing with like a synthesizer, like something that, like everything, even if it's synthesizer, oh, that's FM, okay, oh, that's that, oh, that's a violin, maybe. I bet you I could use my operator to get the violin sound. But it became very clear that there were sounds that you weren't just going to crack open wavetable or operator or analog. These didn't sound like synthesizer sounds. They sound like someone was like outside with with like a striking object and like hitting a tin can. That would be a resonator. Think about like a tin can, like a can of pop or a can of soda. Do you call it pop or soda? And let's pretend it's empty, or pretend that there's Coke in there. Anything, not, Coca-Cola. You hit it and it's going to have a different sound. Now, if it's empty, there's going to be more of that like metallic resonator thing, because it's this metallic object. So just think about that. What about this? That's a sound. That actually kind of sounded like a drum. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you can probably... Someone's like, I could use operator or analog or wavetable and I could make that sound. How dare you spread that? I was about to say something else. So it became clear. Before I knew resonators were around, I knew they were powerful, but I wanted to make those more like organic-y sounds. And I know a lot of you that have been watching my videos have really enjoyed a lot of these resonator ones. And it also seems like a lot of you are really like ambient music too, just like me. Smash a like if you do. But I've heard a lot of people like, yeah, I'm really interested in that resonator shit. Because, and you want to know what? You want to know how you can synthesize and create your own snare drum? Just do it in white noise with like operator analog, and then tweak up some sort of resonator like Corpus, and you'll be able to get like more of that body sound of the snare. It's pretty crucial. Like you almost like need to have it. Like, so yeah, those are the devices that have a major resonator focus, and then audio effects. yeah, you're going to be in this reverb resonance. I even add vocoder. I'm not sure why. I think it's probably because the way vocoder does things. Spectral resonator is really cool. To be honest, spectral resonator is kind of like Corpus, but like the resonating quality. The way I want to think of it is almost like Corpus is doing resonators that mimic these different objects, these different 3D objects. And then it seems like spectral resonator, which we might play with as well. I've got a SDHO where I cover that. I hope I put it in the title name. But this one is going to be more like a mathematic one. You know what I mean? Where we're going to be able to like play our white noise like we did over here. But we can like, same thing with our sidechain, you know. And in fact, let's like actually do that. So let's delete this Corpus. Oh, but before we do, what other? Spectral resonator. That was the other one. That one's been with Ableton for a long time. Oh, not spectral resonator. Resonators. But you could use all these together. Only difference with this resonator is that you only get like one sound. So for instance, like if you know you really only get, you can't play it dynamically. There's no, if I were to play like A, B, C, F sharp, G, you know what I mean? Like it's only going to play whatever this note is, but then it'll allow you to add pitches on top of it. So I can play a complex chord, like, okay, look, it's the minor third, perfect fifth, the minor seventh, the nine. You know what I mean? Like you're just going to get a complex chord, but it's always going to be a C. Yeah, you could move it around, but like this thing in here, like operator, you know, yeah, definitely one in poly mode. It's going to be like dynamically changing this. So this is good for more like tonal or polytonal sounds, but you're only playing one. So yeah, you can still use it. There's a Max for Live device that actually gives you that functionality, and I did download it and I've used it, but for some reason I didn't really like the results, you know, so I was just like, whatever. I'd rather just use one like Corpus or Spectral Resonator, but nevertheless, it's cool and I use it in some applications. So let's actually leave this Spectral Resonator here and let's kind of use it like a return track. So, first of all, I want Spectral Resonator, but I don't want it on a MIDI track. I actually want it on an audio track. And of course, I've got all of my usual suspects here. They're hardly doing anything, just like they're doing like maintenance work. So I'm going to, this operator over here is what's giving my noise. The noise is coming from this operator. It's a white noise. I'm just rolling off. That's why I've got this filter frequency here. And I've got this guy on. But listen to what happens. Let's turn this off, Corpus off. We've just got our white noise. But let's go back in here in a Spectral Resonator. Now, we should be able to do this. MIDI from operator. You know what? I think we actually do want it in MIDI. I'm just going to open up a MIDI track, drop Spectral Resonator, because I want MIDI to come in. So because what you should be able to do is create strings of these. So when I want the MIDI to come from the operator, this operator right here. Do I have to put this on? Monitor in. MIDI from operator. Hold on. I'm going to go back to no input. I want to see if this comes through if I do pre-effects. I'm not too sure. That's kind of weird. I thought you could just steal MIDI and it would play. I'm going to come back into here really quick. Yeah, I don't know why it's not routing this in here. Weird, because check this out. Let's go back into operator right here. Let's close down Corpus and let's get spectral resonator. See? Yeah, I don't really know why it's doesn't seem to be. Okay, now it's doing it. Now let's just turn this off. Okay, so you can't play it harmonically. You can't play it polyphonically, like multiple notes, unless you select the track operator. See that? It's very quiet. It just kind of sounds like a synthesizer. Now let's put it on poly. Very nice. Let's transpose it down. Again. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Let's put on chorus. Wonderful, but why am I not able to just like drop it on a random track and then just route the audio? Maybe we need to route the audio in, but I don't want that because I just want... So the reason why I don't want to have the Corpus and the spectral resonator on here together is because I want to have this operator. I want this white noise to feed into the Corpus and I want to hear it. But then I want to have this spectral resonator on one of these other tracks and I want it to pick up just the white noise and throw it into here. And it's not doing that. And I guess that doesn't matter. And I have a workaround. So I'll figure that out. That's like a really good thing, by the way. Now I feel like, oh my God, I achieve everything I set out to do on all of these videos. Now they're going to think I'm incompetent. No, I'm just kidding. That's just all mental head chatter. Give yourself a break. Hope you're enjoying this. I mean, to be honest with you, I always knew in the back of my mind, because I learned Ableton, everything about it through watching Ableton tutorials on YouTube. And I knew at some point I was going to do these longer form tutorials. Think about like podcasts, like when podcasts started getting big in like early 2010s or whatever, and everyone loved, like, what was it? Like, they were like, oh, like Joe Rogan Experience, it's these long form conversations, and how like everything that we are consuming is like, like very short form, like TikTok, like very, you know what I mean? And even though like that's all cool and well and good, sometimes people like to be able to like listen to like a long form, thoughtful, deep kind of a thing, to each their own. Long stuff sometimes, short stuff other times. So, yeah, I'll figure that out at some point, but there's a workaround. And if you know how to do it, leave it in the comments. So you know what you do? Check this out. We highlight Corpus, we highlight spectral resonator, and maybe this is why I failed in making it work right there. Because now it brought me to something better. With them both highlighted, Command G, they're now grouped. But now they're on the same chain. I don't want this. I want this to be the Corpus chain, and then I want to create a chain, and I want that to be the spectral resonator chain. We got to give it a different color, you know that. So come into here, select spectral resonator, Command X for cut. Go into our chain, make sure we're in here, and paste it. Now, why do we do that? Because what's coming out of our operator, which in this case is a white noise, it's going to be, and I'm going to mute the spectral resonator, it's now being passed through the Corpus, and now we're hearing our good buddy Corpus. Here's our Corpus. But now if we turn off Corpus, we go into our spectral resonator, And very predictably, if we turn this on, we get both. Now, if we did it the other way, like I was trying to do, it would be the same thing. But because I wasn't able to figure it out, I'm now benefited. Why am I benefited? And this will be a good learning experience. And if you just I always find when there's a thing I want to do in any of these like creative programs, anything creatively, oftentimes I will get blocked. And I'm like for instance, there's no reason why I wasn't able to figure out how to route that white noise into that other audio track with the spectral resonator or that MIDI track with the spectral resonator. I've done that stuff before, but I wasn't able to do it. Why? It's always because something better. Now I was like, there's another way to do it. And it's more efficient because it's all on the same track. So if we didn't have this audio effect and we had the corpus sitting there and then the spectral resonator sitting there, going from left to right or whatever, or from your perspective, I think from here to here, that means the white noise would go into the corpus. It would then be outputted into the spectral resonator, and then you would hear that. Now that might give a very unique tone, but that wasn't what I wanted. You know what I mean? I wanted this. Now, I am kind of curious to know, because I do want to know how you would route that in. In fact, I'm going to give it one last go. Should we give it one last chance? Okay, let's go. Audio track. I think it's the audio track. Here's why. And I want to input from operator. Do I get it? Do I get some sound? Yes, there's some sound here. Go to monitor, auto. Yes, we did it. See? Sometimes there's a thing I want to do and I can't do it, even though I know how to do it, and it makes me get like tense. But then what happens is I figure it out, I learned another thing in the process, and then I got to learn the thing even better because I had a challenge and I then overcame the challenge. If you're going through a lot of challenges in life, it will get better. I've got a quote for you. It's like the universe is like, these mountains I put before you, you were only meant to climb. You weren't meant to be all upset and crying about them and saying, curse you, universe. You were supposed to climb them, kick ass, and then be at the top of the mountain, feeling all euphoric, feeling all zen-like, Climb those mountains, guys. I believe in you. And if you believe in these tutorials, please consider supporting. I was gonna do a Patreon, but I feel like Patreon's too boring. It's too Web 2. We're all on Web 3 now. So releasing NFTs, the thumbnails, one of one. So if you like the art that I make, which I really love the art I make, you can nab one up. I'm going to release them. I think I'm going to release a new one every NFT. I'll go back every thumbnail. So if you nab SDHO 4 thumbnail, only you are going to have that. You know what I mean? So if everyone, if you guys keep supporting me, I will be making these tutorials, and I'm going to be making more specific tutorials, but I'll be making these forever. And if the community grows, not only do you support me by purchasing one of those NFTs, but you can sell them. If all of a sudden there's a marketplace for them, you could then end up making money on supporting me, So that'd be cool. If someone reaches out and they're like, yeah, I'd like to nab that one up. SDHO 3 was the coolest one. I'll you know what I mean? So it'd be kind of cool. Then there's royalties. So then I'll be able to also get supported with that, because I'll be honest with you, I've not been making any income with any of these, haven't even tried, and I'm really into NFTs, blockchain, and I thought it'd be really cool, really unique, and maybe we could do even other cool things anyways, back to this. We figured out how to do it. We figured it out. What if I did sends only? Because right now I'm getting this sound, but if I lower it, I don't hear the resonator. But if I do sends only, will I still hear it? Awesome. But we gotta go to the MIDI because we want to play it Then grab operator. Did we do it? Did we do it? Yeah, come on, computer music. And then if we take off sends only. I realize I'm jumping around, but I feel like we're learning more and we're learning about other areas of Ableton that we maybe aren't so familiar with. What do I send this to? Master? Cool. So that allows us to then come back in, throw this on. We will put this back at 0. Our spectral resonator will turn off. But then we could also still do this. Get 2 of these spectral resonators. This one will, what is this? This spectral resonator is at negative 24. This spectral resonator is at negative 12. Let's shift this up. Maybe we'll take it off course, but I wonder. Let's get a unison mode. Very cool. I've got a very naughty idea. We've been playing with this white noise. Let's do sine wave. I hope nothing crazy happens, like the computer blows up because this like triggers a chain reaction. Probably not, because it's a sine wave and that's just one little pitch. Ow, that did. Ow, that did. See, that was like I was like sensing into the future. Why and how dare you? Let's lower these. -6, -6. Will our ears get bruised and burned over these -6? I'm gonna go for it. Wow. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna get rid of this. Ouch, very loud. Lower this. It's coming more out of the right one. Why is it coming out more out of the right ear? Why? Let's turn off spectral. No, it's the Corpus. Going to Corpus. I'm hearing it more out of the right, so let's lower them. Just a little bit of a spread. See, I just learned that now. I wasn't aware that it was favoring that so much. So wonderful. Let's get out of marimba. Let's go to membrane. Kind of cool. Now let's do some spectral resonator. Let's lower the spectrum all the way and then bring it up. You can play chords. Make sure you're on... Isn't that a nice sound? That's a major chord. So that's a C major, ready? Look at that sound. Thank you. Oh, it's 11:11 up there. See it? Oh. I'm telling you, are we not doing magic here today? If you enjoyed that, please subscribe. Please like. Go through. Watch all the sound design hangouts. If you're lonely, if you got nothing to do, if you like to hear about someone talk passionately and informatively about something because your mind is driving you nuts, you don't even know what to think about anymore, you can almost turn off your mind, sync up with my mind, learn something, forget about your problems. I started recording these in March of 2022. Now it's the end of November 2022. I've recorded 50 videos, I think 55 videos. Go in, chill, hang out. This is what I knew I was gonna do. Hanging out. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's a little sad. Maybe I wanted to talk to music theory and teach people about these things and sound design, and I never had anyone to do it with, and well, now I'm able to do it with a lot more people. If you enjoyed it, please smash a like. Please consider supporting. Have fun. Spread the love of resonators, and let me know if there's any cool ambient tricks that you figure out to do with the resonators. Thank you. Wonderful.